I want us to start a family." That's what she said one night in February, curled up next to me on the couch with her head on my shoulder and a scented candle flickering behind her. For a moment, I froze. Not because I didn't want it, but because I did. Deeply. Quietly. For years. And I'd waited patiently, maybe even stupidly, for her to be ready. So when she finally said those words, I kissed her forehead and smiled like a man who'd just been handed a dream. "Let's do it," I said. We'd been married for 5 years, both in our late 30s. I had a solid career in finance, making more than enough to support a family. She worked part-time at a boutique interior design firm, mostly remote, with a flexible schedule. We had a 4-bedroom home in the suburbs, no debt, 2 cars paid off, and a mutual fund portfolio that most people our age would kill for. On paper, we were more than ready. Emotionally, that was harder to measure. But she said she was ready, so I believed her. The following weeks were filled with baby fever, ovulation tests, prenatal vitamins, Pinterest boards full of nursery color schemes and gender-neutral onesies. She started using phrases like baby energy and manifesting motherhood. Her search history was full of stroller comparisons and early education theories. She even joined 2 private Facebook groups for hopeful first-time moms. I dove in too, ordered books, cleared the spare bedroom, rescheduled a work trip to be home during her peak window. We were trying, but the trying didn't feel romantic. It felt scheduled, transactional, like a task to check off. And something about her had changed. I couldn't pinpoint it at first. She wasn't mean or distant, not exactly. Just distracted, preoccupied, quiet in a way that felt unnatural for her. She started going for long solo walks in the evening. She'd linger in the shower. Her phone became a permanent extension of her hand, always tilted just out of my line of sight. I noticed these things. Small, silent shifts. Tiny cracks in the picture she was painting. But I kept them to myself. Because people change when they're stressed. Pregnancy talk, hormones, pressure. That's what I told myself. Still, the gut feeling was there. And it wouldn't shut up. 3 months later, on a sleepy Sunday morning, I walked into the bathroom to find her sitting on the edge of the tub, holding something in both hands. A pregnancy test. Positive. She looked up at me, eyes already full of tears. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. And then she cried. Hard. I held her, arms around her shoulders, whispering that I loved her, that I was proud, that she was going to be a great mom. But her face didn't look happy. It didn't look scared either. It looked cornered. Over the next few days, we told close family and a few friends. Everyone celebrated. Text chains lit up. Her sister sent her a care box with ginger tea and socks with little ducks on them. I told my boss I'd likely need some time off later in the year. And I really tried to enjoy it. But that feeling kept gnawing at me, like a slow drip behind drywall. At our first doctor's appointment, she held my hand as the tech turned on the monitor. 6 weeks, strong heartbeat. A tiny black and white blur, pulsing steadily on the screen. The nurse printed a photo for us. She smiled. I smiled. But in the parking lot, she barely said a word. On the drive home, she stared out the window in silence, like she'd just left a funeral. I asked if she was okay. She nodded. But her knuckles were white from how hard she was gripping the seatbelt. That night, I stayed up late. She was asleep by 9. I sat at my desk with my laptop open and typed 6 words. How to get a paternity test. I wasn't proud of it, but I wasn't going to ignore my instincts anymore. I found what I needed fast. Non-invasive prenatal paternity testing, accurate, legal, discreet. Done through maternal blood and a cheek swab from the alleged father. She'd already done a routine blood draw that week at the clinic. All I had to do was call the lab, submit my part, and match the sample ID. The next day, I took my lunch break early and drove across town to the nearest testing center. Swabbed, sealed, signed. Paid for rush processing with my own credit card, separate from our joint account. I didn't tell a soul, and I didn't feel guilty. Because if I was wrong, I could live with that. But if I was right, I needed to be ready. When I got home that night, she was watching a baby sleep sounds playlist on YouTube. She smiled at me over her shoulder, a soft, almost practiced smile. "Did you eat?" she asked. I told her I had. Then I poured myself a glass of wine and sat at the kitchen island watching her. She had that glow again, not the pregnancy glow, the one I'd seen when she was lying. And in that moment, I knew. This wasn't a surprise for her. It was a calculation. The results would take a week, maybe 10 days. I went about life as if everything was fine. Kissed her, cooked for her, rubbed her feet at night. She posted photos of baby clothes on Instagram, captioned, "Can't believe this is real baby bottle red heart." Her friends commented, "You're going to be the best mom." I double-tapped the photo, left a heart emoji like a supportive husband. But inside, I was already detaching, planning, preparing, waiting for confirmation of what my gut had been telling me since the day she said, "I'm ready." The envelope came on a Wednesday, plain white. No markings except for my name. No paternity results enclosed or confidential medical mail. Just a quiet, innocuous envelope sitting between a bank statement and a Bed Bath & Beyond coupon. I stared at it for a long minute. My hand didn't tremble. My heart didn't race. It was the stillness that surprised me, because deep down, I already knew. I waited until she went out. She had a prenatal massage appointment. That's what she said, anyway. I watched her car pull out of the driveway. Then I locked the door, sat at the kitchen table, and slit the envelope open with my thumb. One page, bold letters, clinical wording. Paternity exclusion. The tested male is not the biological father of the fetus. No drama, no elaboration, just cold, irrefutable science. I sat back in the chair and stared at the ceiling. I'd prepared for this, emotionally, logistically, but I still felt that sting, not of heartbreak, but of insult. I'd spent 5 years being loyal, patient, supportive, paid off her student debt, funded her dream of opening her Etsy shop, let her find herself while I worked 60-hour weeks. And this is what she gave me in return? A lie wrapped in baby booties. I didn't rage. I didn't throw anything. I opened my laptop and created a folder called Exit Plan. Inside it, the test result scanned, backed up, encrypted. Screenshots of every questionable message I'd seen on her phone. Photos of the car she claimed to take to her prenatal appointments, parked outside a townhouse I'd traced to a guy named Nathan. Copies of all financial documents tied to my premarital assets. A contact list, lawyer, financial advisor, real estate agent. I didn't plan to destroy her. I just wanted out clean, sharp, and silent. That night at dinner, she told me about a new doula she was considering. "She's really intuitive," she said. "I just get a good energy from her." I nodded, chewing slow, sipping water. She looked at me and smiled. "You've been so amazing through this. I feel so lucky." I wanted to ask, lucky because I'm still here? Or lucky because I haven't found out yet? But I said nothing. Because sometimes, silence is a loaded weapon. I began untangling my life from hers piece by piece. I rerouted my direct deposits to a new personal account. Moved ownership of certain investments to a revocable trust in my name only. Revised my will. Removed her entirely. The lawyer I hired was sharp. An older woman with zero patience for excuses or sentiment. "You have a prenup?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Ironclad." She smiled. "Then she doesn't even know she's already lost." Over the next week, I played the part. The devoted husband. The future father. The rock. She continued nesting. Picked out crib styles. Asked about weekend getaways before things get hard. She started sleeping in more, napping during the day. Said the pregnancy was exhausting. I nodded. I offered to cook. I did laundry. I brought her tea at night. And every time I looked at her, I wondered whose face she imagined when she closed her eyes. One afternoon, I followed her. She told me she had an appointment downtown. Said she was getting her blood work redone. I waited 10 minutes, then drove the same direction, but took a side street. Parked. Sat in my car. Watched as she pulled up outside the same townhouse. A man opened the door. Tall. Tan. Slight beard. Nathan. They didn't kiss. But she handed him a bag, something small, blue tissue paper poking out the top. A gift. He hugged her. Too long. Too comfortably. And when she turned to leave, she smiled the way she used to smile at me. That night, she asked if we could plan a baby shower. Something simple. Maybe just close friends and family. I told her that sounded perfect. Because it would be. Just not in the way she expected. By now, I had everything I needed. Evidence. Legal protections. A timeline. The only missing piece? Closure. And I knew exactly how to deliver it. I didn't plan to tell her right away. Not because I was afraid that part had passed, but because people like her need silence to grow uncomfortable. They don't fear confrontation. They fear precision. I gave her 2 more weeks. 2 weeks of peaceful mornings, smiling dinners, shared Spotify playlists about baby names and lullabies. 2 weeks where I let her believe everything was normal, even beautiful. Let her decorate the nursery. Let her pick out wallpaper with cartoon clouds and tiny giraffes. Let her show me swatches and say, "Do you think this blue is too bold for a boy?" I told her no. I told her it was perfect. And she smiled like a woman with nothing to fear. The last thing I did before execution was set the stage. I booked a venue for the baby shower, her favorite winery just outside town. Private room, catered lunch, champagne-free mimosas. I invited everyone. Her mother, her sister, her coworkers, even a few of our mutual friends who'd been growing distant lately, ones I suspected she'd already lied to. I made sure the invitations were tasteful, classy, final. In the background, I tightened the screws, transferred the deed of our home into my trust, filed for a separation hearing with my lawyer on standby, printed a final folder, paternity results, photos, financial records, texts, receipts. The envelope was thick, but tidy. I slid it into my suit jacket pocket the morning of the shower and drove to the winery in silence. When I arrived, she was glowing, not from pregnancy, from performance. Wearing a pale pink dress, hair curled just enough, soft smile ready for photos. "Oh my God, you did all this?" she asked, eyes wide with admiration. "Of course," I said. "You deserve it." She kissed my cheek. And for one absurd second, I felt like the old version of us was still alive somewhere. Then I remembered Nathan, and the baby that wasn't mine. The room filled up quickly. Polite laughter, compliments, toasts. People passed around a white onesie with, "Hello, I'm new here," printed on the front. I watched her soak it all in. Watched her friends say, "You two are perfect together," and "He's going to be such a good dad." She beamed. She said, "He's been amazing through everything." And I smiled back. Because in a way, she was right. I had been amazing, just not in the way she thought. When it came time for the final toast, I stood up and tapped my glass. Everyone turned. I looked at her, hands folded over her stomach, waiting for a joke or a sweet anecdote. "I just want to say thank you," I began, "for being here today, for supporting us, and for believing in love, even when it's not what it seems." A few people chuckled, unsure if I was being sentimental or sarcastic. She raised an eyebrow. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope, laid it gently in front of her. "This is for you," I said. "Something I've been meaning to share." The room went quiet. She blinked, laughed nervously. "Is this part of the surprise?" "No," I said calmly. "It's the end of it." She opened the envelope. "Read the top page." Her face lost all color. I watched the words strike her, one line at a time. Paternity exclusion. Documented evidence. Photographic timestamp. Her hands shook. She looked up at me, mouth slightly open. "Wait. You don't have to explain," I interrupted. "Everything's already in motion." Her mother leaned over, confused. Her sister grabbed the folder and began flipping through it. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered, "Oh my God." I stepped away from the table, looked around the room and said, "Thank you all for coming." And then I walked out. She called me that night. 5 times. Then 10. Texts piled up, apologies, excuses, half-lies written in panic. I didn't mean for it to happen. I was confused. "I thought you didn't want a baby." None of it mattered, because I didn't respond. I'd made the decision the moment I opened that envelope in my kitchen. And now, she could sit in the silence she created. 2 days later, she was served. 3 weeks after that, she moved out. Nathan didn't take her in. Turns out he had a wife of his own and a baby on the way. As for me, I stayed in the house, repainted the nursery into an office, moved the giraffe wallpaper to storage, opened a college fund for someone else's kid, my goddaughter, went back to living like a man who doesn't confuse love with blindness. She thought she was winning. That's the part that still gets me. While she smiled at her phone and whispered in the garage, I was cataloging every step. She built a fantasy, and I let her. Let her imagine herself as the glowing mother-to-be, adored by a loyal husband, praised by friends. Let her think the lie was working. Because once you know the truth, pretending becomes strategy. It started with simple observation. Patterns. Habits. Rhythms. She said she had yoga on Thursdays, but her mat never left the hallway. Instead, she came home smelling faintly of cologne I didn't wear. She claimed to be too tired for intimacy, but had energy for long, late-night texting sessions with someone named Gabe, who somehow never showed up in her contact list the next morning. She left her laptop open once while showering. I didn't snoop. I watched. Browser history. Airbnb, couples retreats, baby names that weren't the ones we picked out. And then there was the receipt, folded in half, stuck to the bottom of her purse. Dinner for two at a rooftop restaurant downtown, the night she said she was helping her sister move. I took a photo, labeled it, stored it. Just another piece in the file. But the genius of my plan wasn't just collecting evidence. It was giving her enough rope. The more convinced she was that I suspected nothing, the bolder she became. She started talking about baby showers, maternity shoots, even pushing for a baby moon. I was thinking Maui, she said one night, curled on the couch with a blanket over her legs. I smiled. Sounds perfect. Because why not let her build the castle? I already knew where the cracks were. One night she left her phone on the nightstand, unlocked. A notification popped up, he's still totally clueless face with tears of joy. I didn't open it. Didn't need to. I turned off the screen, kissed her on the forehead, and whispered, I love you. And she smiled in her sleep. Meanwhile, I was meeting with lawyers. 3, to be exact, just to be sure. I confirmed the validity of the paternity test, confirmed the prenup, confirmed my rights, created a step-by-step timeline with zero legal risk. No outbursts, no accusations, just documentation, witness backup, financial tracing, and asset lockdown. She wouldn't lose because I was angry. She would lose because she underestimated me. At work, I shifted my salary, stopped direct deposits to our joint account, rerouted everything into a protected LLC I'd formed a year prior, just in case. I sold off one investment property and paid cash for a second under that same LLC. A 2-bedroom condo downtown. Furnished. Quiet. Clean. That would be my landing pad once I left. No one knew. Not her. Not our friends. Only me and my lawyer. And that made it bulletproof. She told me she was thinking about quitting her job to focus on the pregnancy. I encouraged it. She said she was worried about money. I told her not to stress. We'll be fine, I said. And we would be. I just wouldn't be financing her betrayal any longer than I had to. Then came the registry. She filled it with high-end items. A $900 stroller. Imported crib linens. A $300 baby monitor with night vision. I watched her scroll through reviews like a kid making a Christmas list. I want the best for our baby, she said. And I nodded. Of course you do. Because the more she leaned into the fantasy, the harder the fall would hit. And I wasn't doing it out of cruelty. I was doing it because she made a mockery of trust and still wore a crown like she deserved it. The night before the baby shower, she asked if I'd write something to read aloud. Like a toast or something sweet, she said. I kissed her on the cheek and said, already working on it. And I was. Just not the one she expected. I packed the envelope carefully. One copy of the test results. A printed timeline of her lies with date-stamped photos and locations. A brief letter outlining the divorce process, and a contact card for my attorney. No threats. No name calling. No drama. Just facts. Clean and quiet. That night, I stood alone in the nursery, staring at the giraffe wallpaper. The bassinet. The books she picked out. A room for a baby that didn't belong to me. I didn't feel rage. I felt distance. Like this life we'd built was a museum exhibit I was walking through one last time. I turned off the light, closed the door gently, and whispered, enjoy the dream while it lasts. The morning of the baby shower, she was radiant. Not glowing with pregnancy, glowing with control. She floated around the house in a silk robe, humming, curling her hair in soft waves. Can you believe it? She said. This feels so real now. I smiled. It does. She didn't notice that I'd barely touched my coffee. Didn't notice the envelope in my briefcase, resting beside the gift bags. Didn't notice that while she prepared to celebrate a life she created with someone else, I was preparing to walk out of hers entirely. The winery was perfect. Rustic tables, white linens, light jazz drifting through open windows. The kind of place where people toasted dreams and drank to illusions. Friends arrived first, hugs, squeals, gift bags. Then came family. Her sister, her mother, my cousins. Everyone smiled. Everyone said how lucky we were. How great I was being through all the hard parts. They didn't know they were complimenting a man preparing to make her fall apart in front of everyone. She walked in fashionably late, perfectly dressed in a soft blush maternity dress. One hand under her stomach like a prop, the other holding a flute of sparkling cider. She kissed everyone, posed for pictures, opened cards. At one point, she pulled me close and whispered, "You're really good at surprises." I nodded. You have no idea. The brunch moved on like a slow waltz. Tiny sandwiches. Polite laughter. Group selfies. She read aloud cards from friends who couldn't make it. Talked about baby names she'd been dreaming of. Told the story of how she knew the exact moment we conceived. The room melted with warm smiles. And I sat there thinking, every single person here believes the lie. Every single person deserves the truth. So when the hostess clinked her glass and said, "Let's hear a few words from the soon-to-be dad," I stood, napkin folded neatly beside my plate, glass in hand, jacket buttoned, and the envelope in my inside pocket. "Thank you all for being here," I began. She beamed, resting her chin in her hand like this was a fairy tale. I continued, "Today means a lot. It really does. To be surrounded by people who love and support us. It's more than I ever expected." I paused. "And it's more than some people deserve." The room went still. She blinked. Her smile twitched, unsure. "I want to share something with you all," I said. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope. Set it on the table in front of her. "What's this?" she asked, already pale. "A collection of facts," I said. She hesitated, then opened it. Pulled out the first page. "Read silently." Her face collapsed. She flipped through the documents. Photos. Dates. Screenshots. The paternity test. "No," she whispered. "No, this isn't." "It is," I said. Calm. Controlled. I waited. I watched. "And now, I'm done." Her sister grabbed the papers. Her mom leaned over, confused. I turned to the guests. "To those of you who know me, thank you for coming. To those of you who believed in our marriage, I'm sorry you were lied to." Gasps. A dropped fork. She tried to speak, hands shaking, voice caught in her throat. I didn't wait. "I'll be filing this week," I said. "Everything's already in place." Then I looked at her, just once. And I said, "You could have had everything, but you wanted more." I walked out. The warm spring air hit my face like freedom. I didn't look back. Not at the winery. Not at the guests. Not at the woman who threw it all away and thought I'd never find out. She called that night. 20 times. Texts filled with panic, denial, then anger, then begging. "Please talk to me. It wasn't like that. We can fix this." I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to hurt her. Because I wanted peace. And silence was the first step. 2 days later, her sister texted me. "Whatever you need, we're here. You don't deserve this." Apparently, the entire room turned on her after I left. Even her mother couldn't defend it. She tried to say Nathan tricked her, that she was scared and confused. But it didn't matter. Everyone saw the truth. And the truth doesn't care about your performance. Peace didn't come overnight. But it came. The first few days after the shower, I moved into the downtown condo I'd bought in silence months before. Clean space. No reminders. Just light, hardwood floors, and the quiet sound of my own breathing. I slept like I hadn't in years. She showed up once. Middle of the day, unexpected. Buzzed from the building's call box, voice crackling with desperation. "Please," she said. "We need to talk." I didn't answer. Instead, I sat on the couch and let her voice fade with the static. After a minute, the buzzer went silent. And I knew that would be the last time. The divorce moved quickly. Thanks to the prenup, everything was clear. The house? Mine. The investments? All protected under my trust. The accounts? Already drained and shifted by the time she tried to touch them. She walked away with almost nothing. No alimony. No child support. Because the child wasn't mine, legally or biologically. She tried to contest it. Filed a motion claiming emotional betrayal. My lawyer laughed when she read it. "This is the weakest Hail Mary I've seen in 20 years. We didn't even show up to court. Handled everything in paperwork." By the time fall came, I was a free man. Nathan didn't stay. Turns out he had his own mess, a wife, a mortgage, and a newborn that actually was his. From what I heard, his affair with my ex blew up both their lives in one shot. He blocked her number. Unfollowed her on everything. The fantasy collapsed. She was alone. Mutual friends stopped reaching out to her. Some sent me quiet messages of support. Others just let the silence settle naturally, like dust on a sealed room. I didn't go around telling people what happened. Didn't post on social media. Didn't drag her name through the mud. I didn't need to. The truth spoke louder than I ever could. 6 months later, I ran into her sister at a bookstore. She looked tired, but kind. "I just want you to know," she said, "we're all on your side." I nodded. "Thank you." She hesitated before adding, "She's not doing well. Regrets everything." I almost said, "She regrets getting caught." But instead, I just smiled. Some things you can't take back. I used the next year to rebuild, not just my routine, but myself. Took a sabbatical from work. Traveled. Saw the Grand Canyon. Spent a week in Maine in a tiny cabin with no cell reception. Read 17 books. Didn't miss her once. I started journaling. At first, it was just venting. Then, slowly, it became vision. What did I want next? Who did I want to be now that I was no longer someone's husband, someone's provider, someone's safety net? Turns out, I wanted peace. Not fireworks. Not rebound love. Just quiet mornings, real friends, and trust, earned, not faked. People asked if I'd ever date again. I told them maybe, but I wouldn't chase it. Not anymore. If it came, it would have to be honest. And if it wasn't, well, I already knew how to walk away. Sometimes I'd get emails from her. Apologies. Long ones. Stories about how she was in therapy, how she wasn't herself during that time. One ended with, "I still believe we could have been a great family." I didn't respond. Didn't even finish reading. Because we were never a great family. Just a good illusion. And illusions don't raise children. They shatter when tested. I saw her once, almost a year later. She was coming out of a grocery store, hair tied up, sunglasses on, pushing a cart with one hand and looking at her phone. She didn't see me, and I didn't stop her. She looked like a woman living a different life now. Smaller, quieter. Not because she'd changed, because the fantasy was over. As for me, I kept the giraffe wallpaper. Not to hang it, but to remember that I'd once planned for a future with someone who didn't deserve it, and that I survived it. More than that, I won. Not through vengeance, not through noise, but through preparation, patience, and the power of letting the truth speak for itself.